Welcome to the Smithsonian National Museum of American Indians Youth in Action. My name is Bert Correa. I'm Taíno. I work in the education department here in the museum. Join us today as we speak to Native youth who skateboard and the community work that they do. See you soon. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're here for Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian Youth in Action. Today we're going to be talking about skateboarding and activism amongst Indigenous youth here in the Americas. My name is Bert Correa. I'm Taíno. That means I'm an Indigenous descendant from the people in the Caribbean. My family is from the island of Borinquen, which is also called Puerto Rico. And one of the reasons I bring this up is belonging is very important for every one of us. Culture is often the way we express that belonging. For many Indigenous people, belonging is deeply tied to ancestral homelands and through relationships with their environment, as well as memories and cultural experience lived over thousands of years. For that reason, and for so many more, I like to gratefully acknowledge the Native people on whose ancestral homelands we find ourselves on today, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who are still here. This is our museum's land acknowledgement, and while I live and work in New York City on the ancestral homeland of the Lenape, today I'm joining you from the Seneca homelands of Niagara Falls. Land acknowledgements are a first step in creating collaborative, accountable, and respectful relationship with Indigenous nations and communities. These land acknowledgements should be motivated by genuine respect and support of Native people. They can be spoken or written and are meant to recognize that Indigenous people are the original stewards of the lands on which we now live and work. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that connection between the land, between Indigenous youth and skateboarding. Skateboarding, a land-based activity, has a connection to surfing. Surfing, considered the big brother of skateboarding, started when Polynesians brought surfing to Hawaii. You can see depictions of surfing in caves as far back as the 12th century. Now, the sport goes viral, but it was an important way of life and part of the spiritual beliefs of the Polynesian people. When surfers were out at sea and the waves were sort of flat, it was not uncommon for those surfers to sidewalk surf on skateboards while they were waiting for bigger sets to come in. That popularity in the sport would become widespread when skateboarding would transition to pools and transitions in Southern California. A little later on, skateboarding would make its way over to New York City, where looking to translate what skateboarders were doing in California to the streets of New York, street skating was invented. And so there's this through line that connects the Indigenous origins of surfing to skateboarding and brings it all the way to the future. It's come full circle, and I'm thrilled to talk to our guests today, Indigenous skateboarders from a number of different nations who also do great community work. Today we're joined by Cameron Schenandoah and Di'Orr Greenwood. I'd like to take a moment for Di'Orr and Cameron to introduce themselves to our audience today. Di'Orr, can we start with you?
Hey everybody. Hello, my name is Di'Orr Greenwood. I am a multidisciplinary artist, and that includes skateboard designing, skateboard manufacturing, flute making, and textile work. I also am a skateboarder and a skateboarding instructress. My homelands are of the Diné Nation, formerly known as the Navajo Nation. My community has welcomed me my whole life. And I am wearing the brown skin of my homelands. My hair is long and brown, straight. My blouse is a black velveteen blouse with silver buttons on them. My necklace is a homemade necklace of coral and turquoise, hand strung by local artisans in my community. And yes, this is what I am wearing.
Siguli Sigweg Ladansis ni Onyats, Tahuni ni Wagita Lo, Onyota'a ni Wagohonjot, Agwegu Hotkano Heladu, Galek Gunjokwaza. Sigoli Sigweg. Hello, my name is Cameron Schenandoah. My name is Ladonsis. That means that I have a long trail of stories behind me. I'm from the Oneida Nation of New York. We are a part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I've been skateboarding for longer than 10 years, and I've been a part of my community for my whole life. I'm wearing a red ribbon shirt, white hat, and white shirt, and a medallion around my neck.
So I'm so thrilled to have these two panelists who you were just introduced to here with us today. I wanted to share a little bit with you all about when I first stepped on a skateboard. So it was in a galaxy far away, in the borough of the Bronx, where I was raised. And I had a friend that moved into our neighborhood. He was setting up a quarter pipe in his yard, I guess looking to make some friends. He invited some of us over to help out. Now, none of us had skateboards, and in fact, skateboarding in the Bronx at that time was sort of relatively unknown. There had been a skate scene in Manhattan, but at that time and at our age, that might as well have been a world away. So at the end of the day, once we finished that ramp, we all took turns practicing how to drop in, and I was hooked. So, I was just wondering, because I don't know those stories, but I'm sure we're all interested. How did you all get introduced to skateboarding? I was wondering maybe we can start with Cameron this time.
Yeah, I got introduced at a young age, being at community events and seeing my older cousins have a skateboard and just wanting to be like them and do the tricks that they do and be a part of that cool group, and uh just just be like my older cousins.
Skateboarding from the outside looking in looks cool to people. We sort of look carefree as we're out there roaming around different neighborhoods. I'm wondering, Dior, was that the same for you? Did you see it that way? What were your experiences and how did you get started?
Well, an extremely long story short, I started because my little brother got a skateboard from my grandfather, but the skateboard he got had plastic trucks on it. So he rode that skateboard like it was a professional board with metal trucks. And soon after that, my brother just kind of found a skateboard that was in the community, and that's became the interest point. And then over the years, it kind of just grew onto me. I was about like 16, 17 at the time, and then kind of worked its way into my life, posing as a resourceful tool to get to, from work to school, eventually when I moved to the city life. So, an interesting thing I just found out less than a couple years ago is I found out that, my mom always said she skated, but there's never any photos. But, her aunts would be like, or my aunts, her sisters would be like, yeah, your mom used to have a wooden board with, those solid clay wheels or the metal wheels as well. And I never believed it till that moment. And one day I'm looking through some family photos and I found a photo of my dad holding a skateboard when he was a kid. So it kind of makes sense now why, I had so much interest into an object or a movement like skateboarding. So I think my mom and my dad had a big role in me getting hooked.
Wow, that connection is amazing. Similarly, my dad mentioned nailing sardine cans that they would cut in half and join together to make these metal wheels onto like planks of wood to kind of play around on when he was young too. So where I don't think I necessarily inherited his love for skateboarding, I don't think he did it too much. It's something that he sort of related to and recognized when I started skating. So we
Mhm.
talked about how we have these family connections and how from the outside skateboarding looks really cool. It doesn't just look cool, it is cool, by the way. Yeah, I was wondering, are there any other things that make skateboarding special to you all or endearing? Cam, is there anything you could share about that?
Yeah, just the translation of the self-expression when you ride your board. It's just everything that I want to show everybody that I can do and I can be a part of. And like you guys, my Luxup, my grandpa, he he was a very crafty person, and he took a plywood and screwed it to a skateboard so that I could stand on it at a young age. And so he would put a rope onto it, and so that I could hold it. And where I'm from, it's the 32 acres, and it's just one road, and it's a hill, luckily. So I would roll down that and drag it back up with my rope every almost every day, and that's what like really drove me, from a young age to just keep on having fun.
That's great. Yeah, so this family connection, right, in common. And I really, really connect to those stories. Dior, was there something that made skateboarding special to you? Is there a way that it's endeared itself to you in your life? We mentioned how fun it could be and these family connections. I wonder if you had something else to add.
I have a really interesting perspective to bring to you all today, and because I've been around very crafty and amazing artisans throughout, just my family and my community, the working with the wood, the Canadian hard rock maple, you have to think about, the skateboard, yeah, just hit the shop yesterday, so it's new to the shop, but in the span of that hard rock maple's life, it's several years old, and I always think about that when I skate. I'm always like being very appreciative of like the wood it took, the glue, all the steps that it took to achieve this marvelous art piece that we get to, enjoy for a moment and then pass it on to change it, upcycle it into like an art piece and keep it out of the landfill as much as possible, just knowing that that little bit of tree, means something and is very special and is finite as well, so I always try to take a moment to appreciate the wood's life and be stoked that that it's allowing us to be here skating and cruising in style and feeling that that love and care in the form of a movement, getting you to point A to point B or getting you to fall down and get back up.
Yeah, so important, right? A really important lesson, but I love that you bring up the hard rock maple, which are called sugar maples too here in the States in some places. And it's the place where maple syrup comes from. So there's that other indigenous connection to the wood and to everything that it provides for us. So for me, skateboarding is special and it's endeared itself because it allows you to create community. Now, that community doesn't always have a good time, or I guess what I'm trying to say, encounters obstacles sometime towards developing your skating to a certain level. And, like I alluded to years ago in my time, it was even just tough to find a skateboard. I was wondering if um, there were some challenges or obstacles you all may have encountered along your skateboard journeys. Dior, care to share with us a little bit about that if possible?
Yeah, I mean, the same obstacles that I encountered, like not having a ride to go into the nearest town in my hometown. So there's border towns that would have, like a skate equipment, supplies, but that's a good 40 miles one way. So, it's a little bit of a stretch to ask your grandparents to go out of their way 80 miles, spend their money and give you the supplies just so you can, bang it around on the concrete couple times, so the same challenges that were present when I was a youth in my community are still the same challenges, today. There's not a whole lot of support in that skateboarding realm, let alone like access to safe skateboarding spots. So, just drastically, we're just trying to find ways to make skateboarding more inclusive and, take away those same kind of limitations I had when I was a kid. And, I'm an adult now, but those limitations still apply to my nieces, my nephews, and, the young kids in school still in my hometown of, northern Arizona.
Wow. Yeah. And I could see that. I laughed when you were talking because I completely get that. Like, this board is expensive and you're just throwing it around kind of
Yeah.
perspective from like parents and grandparents, and yeah, thank you for sharing that. Cameron, like, I'm assuming, and I say this because I've visited Oneida on an occasion or two. There weren't a lot of sidewalks or infrastructure that allows you to skate, like maybe someplace like New York City does, that have plazas, hubbas, stairs, ledges, rails that you can skate. And there aren't many skate parks. Would you consider those things some obstacles or challenges? And which other obstacles and challenges might have you faced?
Yeah, the challenge to get to the skate park was a big one back in when I was younger and didn't have any money, and my mother didn't have any money, and um, just and yeah, locally there wasn't really any skate parks. Um, the next one over was a town, but they just had a prefab park, and it they didn't do much love with it. But now it's getting way better, and I'm just grateful that it is getting better. But yeah, that was a big obstacle to get to the skate park, and the cost, like you guys said, the trying to buy the shoes, the board, the grip tape, the trucks, everything was just way out of our price range a lot of the time. So I had a lot of hand-me-down boards, and I was grateful for them, but I definitely did want, what everybody else came to the park with, new boards and new stuff. But sometimes it didn't happen like that.
We hosted an event which you were part of, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that later on in a park in Canastota. Is that the park you were?
Yes,
ref-
yes, yes, yes.
Yes, one of those things, right? And could be a barrier too, is that some parks in towns are not public, and you have to pay an admission to get in, which is a barrier
What?
in of itself. Yeah, no, it's
Oh, holy, I didn't
um,
know that. That's crazy.
I traveled to this park that was recently built not too far from my house, somewhere in Westchester, and we get up there, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, there's a price for admission," and like a lot of the skaters didn't have any cash on them, so we ended up taking the long trip back home. But and where there has been challenges, I imagine that. Um, Following through on that desire to learn and not stopping no matter what. And some of the lessons I think that skateboarding teaches you probably has led to things that were beneficial for you all, experience that had a positive impact. Dior, you mentioned earlier, like, taught you how to fall, but it also taught you how to get back up. So I was wondering if maybe Cam, did you have a story or something to share about a time or a way in which skateboarding has benefited you or has had a positive impact in your life?
Yeah, I was very lucky and blessed to be able to go to the Camp Woodward, the skate camp, and stay there a couple weeks and meet all my favorite pros and just have fun with all my friends and meet new people and just get connections from all over Turtle Island that just I would never know that I could get. And yeah, I was just very grateful to be a part of that camp. And um, yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah, and I know it's an expensive camp too, huh? Probably about $1,000 for the week or something like that. Um, It sounds like skateboarding has benefited you, Dior, and has a positive impact, one that you seem to share with your community. I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about which ways it may have had that impact or benefited you.
The most immediate way that skateboarding benefited me that I love to give credit to was all the times that I skated home with massive amounts of groceries. So, I would take a tie down and, start stacking my groceries and skate over to Walmart or to the grocery store, skate to the grocery store with the empty laundry basket, kind of get everything I need for the week for work and school, and then put kind of like balance it all on the front of my nose of my skateboard and have the skateboard go up. But then the back end, I would put my foot on it and it would level back out. And, skateboarding really allowed me to live in the city independently without a car. And it sucked waiting at the bus stops because it was 100 and, it was 101 degrees Fahrenheit. In Canada, I don't know the direct translation into the Celsius, but it was brutally hot waiting at those bus stops. So I give, skateboarding credit for just helping me survive my transition from my homeland into the city life. And it was a weird transition, but skateboarding allowed me to get to where I needed to go. And I fell in love with it because, it just was my sheer raw power and pushes and some urethane and some bearings that allowed me to get business done and take care and fuel my body and get hydration. And I thought that was a really powerful thing, is like, yeah, no matter how long it takes me, as long as one push at a time, I'm gonna get home type of mindset. And yeah, it's my favorite memory of like really falling in love with skating, is that it allowed me to use it beyond tricks and beyond tricks, beyond the skate park. It really came in clutch when it came time for just handling business.
So we talked about how skateboarding is appealing and how it's beneficial, right? Like a local means of transportation. So it helped you get back and forth to work and to other places that you had to go to, that trusty friend by your side. I think that
Never
for
asked for gas money. My
never
skateboard never asked for gas money. It was just like, all right, just feed me when I get there.
right. Buy me some new bearings every once in a while. And so I think that like all of the things that we mentioned are appealing, right, to people. And I get the sense, it's something that we all want to share with folks around us, people from our community. So I'm wondering if there are ways in which you all have promoted skateboarding within Indian country, and in which ways have you done that kind of work? Dior, could you share with us if you've had any cool events or ways in which you've promoted skateboarding amongst the Dene or other indigenous communities?
Yeah. I mean, right off the back, I love being an advocate for safe skateboarding. So if I can kind of get the idea into people's mind that you kind of got to fall as good as you skate, that gives me comfort knowing that, that how to take a fall when you do skate. So I think, that's the number one way I like to give back, is just make sure that, if I see your stance a little strange, I want to help out so you have the best balance on a skateboard and you're having a good time. And always just celebrating, my traditional geometric design works through just on my skateboards, and just kind of celebrating being allowed to be openly proud of, my culture and heritage without fear of anything. So I think that's kind of the big give back, is just being unapologetically appreciative of, the gifts and the designs I'm able to share with my community through artwork and skating.
Authentically representing who you are, sharing that with people. And I love that idea of giving back through learning safe skateboarding, right? So, like, if you take a spill, roll, let the inertia sort of disperse through your body and release that energy instead of just slamming and having your body absorb that impact. Um, and yeah, it's interesting that there are more injuries. Like everyone thinks we're going to crack our head open or break a leg, but there are more injuries to our wrists by breaking your fall than there is to other parts of our body. So, Cam, I mentioned a question ago that you and I had collaborated on an event to help promote skateboarding in Indian country. And I was wondering if maybe you want to share with the audience a little bit about what that event was and like who was involved, maybe, what went on throughout the day.
Yeah. Well, we were very blessed to have you, Bert, and to bring Manny Santiago, Olympic pro skater, to our community and to show the little kids that, support is what they need and that there's people here for them that will cheer them on, that will help them, fall safe, that will help them learn what they want to do. And yeah, we were just very blessed to have a pro skater come to the park, and Bert let us know so that I could let our community members know and let all my nieces and nephews get there. And it was just a great time. He gave away product, he gave away skateboards, he gave away his new game that he was on. And it was just very, very inspirational for myself. I'm sure it was for my nieces and nephews and my community members, but I was just very grateful and thankful for that event.
It was such a good day, and like shout out to Manny. Probably Manny Santiago is one of the most giving people that I know, and if he can help, he would. And as a member of the Taíno community, we have those goals in common of helping promoting skateboarding through Indian country, the way all of you do. So I really love to hear about the work and about your perspectives. I think that, like, for me personally, I can see skateboarding benefiting Indigenous youth in a number of other ways too, right? Like social and emotional learning through those communities that are created. I think it helps build a work ethic, right? Skateboarding's not easy, or else everybody would be doing it if that was the case. It takes 500 repetitions of any one muscle in your body for your spastic memory, your muscle memory, to kick in. So that means like a lot of practicing of tricks before you could even land one of them. That work ethic, of course, healthy minds and bodies also. Are there other ways in which you see skateboarding benefiting Indigenous youth? Can I don't know, maybe ask Cam to start with that one?
Yeah, it will benefit Indigenous youth by, well, the supporting them will benefit them by keeping them out of trouble, I think. That, a lot of communities have alcohol problems and drug problems, and I think that if we had more supportive skate parks, more native community skater like influencers like you, Di'Orr, to just show, I didn't have that when I was young, so it was very hard for me to stay true to myself and to my Ongwahue people, and got lost in a boat, out of my canoe and into a different foreign waters, and so trying to find my way back to my language, my people, my community, the seventh generations that come after us. To just to just support them and to, just keep them out of trouble and let them have fun and stay safe.
Yeah, the seventh generation, right? Like any decisions that we make, we got to consider the impact on them. So, just thinking back about those maple trees, right? Like as we're harvesting trees, it's important to plant new ones too, right? For the future and for environmental health, for the health of the ecosystems those trees live in, for the world and its people. Um, I think that that's a really powerful idea that has some parallels within like skate culture and some overlap with indigenous culture. For me, I also see this idea. I grass dance and I grew up on the powwow trail. Was lucky to have some mentors that showed me how to grass dance and gift me with an outfit when I was really young. And one of the things I learned on the powwow trail was that, you know, dance is a way to say thank you to the creator for these arms that work and these legs that work. So it's a form of prayer, but taking that idea and transferring it over to being active in other ways, like on my skateboard. I view skateboarding the same way. I go out every day. Well, my birthday's not every day, but on my birthdays, I go out and I make sure to get a skate session in to say thank you to Creator for that life and for this working body. I was wondering, Dior, did you have anything you could share with us about other parallels that you see or overlap between skate culture and indigenous culture?
Probably the biggest, most noticeable overlap was, when the indigenous community come together when there's a call for something great. It's beautiful to see that in skateboarding. When skateboarders come together and there's a call to unite, to bring justice to something or to celebrate something, that skate culture and that indigenous culture, like it's kind of, they both are all tight knit in their own way, and they don't mess around with community. And I think that's a really interesting parallel that I see is like don't mess with my community, and just the love and sheer respect within a community. I think that's something found in both skate culture and the indigenous culture.
So, Dior, you talked a little bit about the overlap between skate culture and indigenous culture, um, but it's also overlapping in a lot of new, interesting ways, right? So, I'm thinking about a particular dunk and blazer that has your namesake on it and that is being released in a couple of days here. Um, could you talk to us a little bit about that sneaker, about your involvement, how it happened, maybe ways in which you've brought that or connected it to your community?
I'd be you excited to kind of touch base on um this collection. The collection is nearly 4 years old, and we got two shoes. One shoe to embody the beautiful landscape colors, the positive comparison between our clean waters, our land, our beautiful women, our beautiful artwork, our beautiful men. Everything that is beauty is all captured in one shoe. Every shooting star, every clear night sky, every morning, every sunset, everything positive and beautiful. The colorful shoe is the dunk, and that, yeah, so it just captures all of what we all value in our homelands, I would say. The blazer shoe is a testament to all that has tested us, and to all that we've been able to overcome as an indigenous people, an indigenous community. that dark shoe opens up the conversation about the, injustices all across Indigenous communities, but also opens up, the notion that no matter the darkness, no matter how overbearing it may be, is never to give in or give up that little glimmer of hope. So there's a very small turquoise representation on the shoe, and that is just to embody, never giving up and never, surrendering. So these shoes are very emotional pieces, but also, very symbolic of just basic human life and everything that we take for granted, and to slow down and appreciate the things that show up for us, whether we acknowledge it or not, like the Little and Big Dipper, showing us what it means to be consistent in our life. The North Star found on the dunk, that represents the center of your home, your family. Prideful things are found on this showcase of my family and my community, but also, it spans for all of our Indigenous communities, all of our Indigenous families, and what it truly means just to be, a healthy human, really, and understanding the duality of the good and, the not so great.
And it's all encapsulated in those wonderful shoes. It's really going to be a gift to the world, and I applaud you for that. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us. Cam, I was thinking that maybe you had ideas about how skate culture and indigenous culture overlaps. I mean, for one, right? I know that skateboarders sometimes don't consider skating a sport, right? Maybe an activity, definitely an art. And I know you come from a family of artists, so I was just wondering if maybe you could talk to us a little about overlaps that you see, parallels that you see between skate culture, native culture.
Yeah, the parallels that I see are the advice. You know, we get advice from greater skaters and older skaters that will teach us whatever we want to learn at that time. And the community too, I very much enjoy just being a part of a skate community that's welcoming, no matter what race, what color your hair is, what size your pants are, that they will love you, you will find love there, and that's what I like to find in the parallels of my community and skateboarding, is just being myself and translating what I like to wear. Like, I like how Di'Orr wears her regalia while skating, and that's just so inspirational, and I want to do that now.
Yeah.
It's just setting a path for other native skaters to just enjoy their life and be who they are, and yeah, to just follow your heart and to
I love what you said there about like what could be perceived as like a hierarchy or a family unit within skating, right? So you have the elders or like the OGs in the park, um, sending their wisdom on to the generations below them. And yeah, that comes in the form of like, hey, when you're skating transition, bend your knees so you don't get pitched off your board. Um, but those dynamics exist within indigenous cultures too, and are one of the reasons our elders from our various communities are important too. So, oh, I love that point, Cam. Thank you so much for sharing it. And you started to touch a little bit about how those younger people coming up within this community, this very diverse community, one of the most diverse, in fact, and I love everything you had to say about, it doesn't matter gender, sexual orientation, color. What matters is whether you can tray flip or not. No, I'm just kidding, right? Like as long as you skate, you're part of that community, and that's the beautiful thing. would you all have some advice for those indigenous youth who are interested in pursuing skating as a lifestyle or for a living? Cam, could you share what you would tell you as a young man, but approaching uncle age, right? Like becoming that part. Not quite yet, right? You're too young for that. But what would you tell those young skateboarders that are just coming up, those young indigenous skateboarders and others for that matter?
What I would want to hear myself is learn as much as I can and ask questions and be coachable and just have fun. You have so many gifts and talents, and your ancestors, they fought hard for us to be here, to be able to express ourselves and to be able to just be who we are as Haudenosaunee Ongwehue people, as all indigenous people, to just be proud.
I really love that. It's don't forget to have fun, right? You mentioned fun. You mentioned uh, be open to listening and taking advice from people in the community when they mean well. Would you happen to have some good words for Indigenous youth, Dior, looking to pursue skating again as a lifestyle or for a living?
Yes, I think I try to ask the youth, if skateboarding is something you want to do well into, your 50s, take it easy. Skateboarding is going to be there for you. It'll be patient. You know, you can take as many breaks as you want because, skateboarding will always be there after that work shift or be there after, that's your studies in school. It's never going to really, in a sense, disappear from you. So, take care of your obligations first because skateboarding will, it's never going to be upset at you. So, take care of your business and skating will always be there for you and take your time with it. There's no need to rush into, an injury, truly. So if it doesn't feel right at the moment, come back tomorrow or next week, a year from now. But no matter what, just ultimately stay hydrated and stay flexible and yeah, just skate within your ability and you'll have a very, very long, loving time in skating and just having that skate longevity. I'm trying to make it well into, at least pushing and just being able to cruise around to like 75. That would be cool. That would be awesome. I'm not going to go ollie down something, but if I can just, be cruising and still have that little bit of freedom into my elderly years, I'm going to achieve that by taking it easy and knowing that skateboarding will be there for me. And I suggest that, you all do the same and dream big.
So as I'm listening to you talking, right? Patience, persistence, you said
Consistency.
consistency, Cam, you said, be open to listening and remember to have fun. And I want to, it makes me just think about a question I asked a moment ago about that overlap, but there's a popular slogan in skateboarding, right? Like, thank you, skateboarding. But, also that idea of thankfulness for these good things in our life and for the way they benefit us. Is just another parallel that I think about. I think that uh, skateboarding, you get what you put into it, and that if you really want to acquire, whether it's just the lifestyle and skate into your old age the way I hope to as well too. So that resonates with me. To this day, like as I get older, skating these days just to kind of hold on to my bag of tricks. Takes me a little longer to warm up, a little longer to recover. But I'm certainly going to take that advice that you all shared with us today to heart myself and practice it as well. I think that, like, when I first started skating, there was not that infrastructure. I came back to the Bronx. I saw that we still lacked when, in comparison to some of the other boroughs, there weren't skate parks, there weren't skate shops, there weren't contests, so that infrastructure didn't exist. I would recommend to the youth that another way to get involved is not just through your skating, but by creating that infrastructure, though that skating can exist within your community. Be the ones to skate those to create those contests and those shops and those brands, so that the ones coming up have the resources that some of us lacked, like we discussed earlier on. Do either of you have any final thoughts you would like to share with our audience? We're going to be wrapping our session up in a moment here, and I learned so much and so grateful. Cam, you got any final thoughts you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I would like to say just to all the youth again to just be grateful and like Dior said, to just say thank you to your skateboard because it does take you places, it does show you what you didn't know. And yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thanks so much. Your any final words or anything you want to share?
I guess just, take care, be safe, believe in yourself, and yeah, just be grateful. And, I think your skateboarding will take care of you as you take care of it.
That was beautiful. Can't thank you both enough for being here today. A sincere thanks to you, Dior, to you, Cam.
Going to
Yeah, man.
So this was great. I'm sad to say that this brings this session of Youth in Action to a close. Thank you all for joining us today, especially to Cameron and to Dior, who shared so many important stories and experiences with all of us tonight. We're looking forward to seeing you at the next Youth in Action. Stay tuned. Have a good day.